By now, I've seen Batman's origin story so many times I could testify in court. So, after watching this show, I can comfortably say that I cannot do the same for Superman. This is the story of Superman. Grandfather Sag-El in SYFY's Krypton. Val-El refuses assimilation and is deported for treason. Consequently, the House of El is demonetized and stripped of its name. 14 years later, the voice of Rao, Krypton's version of the Pope, would have been blown to smithereens if it weren't for Val's grandson, Seg. Darren Vex rewards him with a prearranged marriage by pimping his daughter Nissa Vex. They do unchristian activities and ChatGPT informs them about their future son, Cor Vex. The thing is, Seg's already got a secret girlfriend. Lyta Zod is daughter to Jaina Zod, commander of Kandor's law enforcement, the Sagittari. A strange man by the name of Adam Strange informs him someone from the future is coming here to destroy Krypton and that he needs to find the fortress. And finds his grandfather's Fortress of Solitude he does. Unfortunately, his mother is suspected of being part of the terrorist organization Black Zero, preying on the voice of Rao's downfall. His father jumps in and Seg is given the Batman starter pack. At the fortress, Adam explains that none of it matters if they don't stop the final boss who conquers entire worlds, Brainiac. Nissa attends Sunday church with the main character. This is the part where His Eminence explains why he's wearing newspaper, but Seg's more concerned with landing his dream job in Silicon Valley for the latest iPad. With access to the databases, if there's anything about an alien conqueror, it would be here. Seg locates the power button and is greeted by a hologram of his grandpa. Val-El reiterates the danger Brainiac poses and affirms it is not a conspiracy theory. A few scenes later, his best friend Kem along with Adam locate a scouting probe. Brainiac is already here. In other news, Nepo baby Lyta beats up the school bully to gain the respect of her peers. Gramps suddenly has a PhD in alien technology he's never seen before. The probe will be looking for a host to collect and upload census data to Brainiac. Around the same time, there is an initiative to flush out Black Zero operatives hiding among the rankless. Although Lyta's all against using violence, the same cannot be said for her Sagittari compatriots who take after American law enforcement. When they finally get a lock on the real Black Zero based on hearsay evidence, Seg asks Lyta to buy him some time. When Seg finally disposes of her, the final boss has already seen her report and is salivating over Krypton's coordinates. The voice of Rao files a noise complaint and tasks Darren with finding a scapegoat to silence the unrest among the rankless. Lyta is arrested for treason after the stunt she pulled for Seg in the last episode. Out of dumb love for the main character and aided by her intrusive thoughts, Nissa agrees to help rescue the love of his life. Upon learning of her innocence, she questions why they're burning Lyta. To overthrow the voice of Rao, they need the support of Jaina and her Sagittari. Speaking of the voice, he's showered with gifts including a surprise from Brainiac. Meanwhile, Seg's been captured by a menace. Evidently, they are also trying to stop Brainiac. Dev M has been trying to get inside her pants for 5 episodes, and she reciprocates. Long ago, Jaina climbed Everest and left her brother for dead because being a Zod means placing honor above even your own family. She fights real hard to hold back her face muscle exercises, but Darren calls off the execution at the last second. Elsewhere, Seg escapes into another encampment and meets Zathona. Her people have sheltered an ultimate weapon for generations. Cool story, bro. Seg slips away, and after some more running around, his friends rescue him from the hall monitor. Turns out he is Lyta's son, Drew Zod, also known as General Zod. Zod traveled back in time to save Kandor from getting bottled up by Brainiac like a Pokemon, and refutes Adam's claims of him being a menace. They come across said ultimate weapon, which turns out to be the unstoppable killing machine known as Doomsday. Zathona declares it cannot be released under any circumstances and scares them off with a few warning shots. With Jaina folded into their rebellion, they decide to blow up the voice of Rao because it was so effective in the pilot episode. Dev's always been a loyal follower of Jaina's, but he was never one for endangering innocent lives. Instead, he escorts His Eminence to a firing squad where they all fail the QuickTime event and succumb to natural selection. Darren immediately soils his pants and bends over for Brainiac when it comes to let he organize the coup. He not only rats out his conspirators, but he's also sent to kill his daughter to prove his loyalty. Kandor is under a full lockdown after their failed coup, and not because of some airborne virus. After sneaking out together, Lyta gives a politician's non-answer when asked whether her feelings for him are real. Upon locating her mother, Brainiac is here to finish the job, but Lyta finishes him first. Just when the Resistance is about to expose Brainiac's true nature, the man turns into a firebender and invites all his parasocial followers into a private group chat. Kem discovers Brainiac is vulnerable during his beauty sleep, and they plan around his bedtime. Jaina and Zod rally the support of Black Zero by rallying it, so long as their leader gets to have Darren. Lyta then deletes Brainiac's connection to Dev by simply removing his forehead accessory. The rebellion shows up at 2100 hours sharp. A clean shot from Jaina sends Palpatine plunging to his death. But somehow, Palpatine returns and gives them a taste of their own medicine. Adam shields them using his Zeta beam, which simultaneously transports him into Season 2 and witnesses what a world conquered by Brainiac looks like. Jaina had a chat with Zod and now believes the menace does not have anyone's best interest at heart. A lifetime ago, Jax was somewhat of a scientist herself. From Darren, she gains access to a vault of clones from the elite houses. Lyta has allied herself with her son as predicted, which is why Seg had Doomsday transferred ahead of time. And yes, Seg is Zod's father. Jaina figures the only way to stop Zod is through a duel to the death. But when Lyta intervenes in the ancient Kandorian tradition, she disappears into Season 2. Later, Seg and Nyssa try to stop Brainiac from summoning his ship. When his empty-headed peanut brain slowly hovers the main character to his demise, Nyssa takes full advantage. Unfortunately, this is only the penultimate episode, meaning the final boss can't perish just yet. Nyssa retrieves her baby and discovers she's one of those elitist clones. What'll become of this information? We'll never know because the show was cancelled. A road trip into the Phantom Zone later and Val-El returns. During his time away, Doctor Strange witnessed all possible alternate endings, and that sort of information is priceless to someone like Brainiac. Seg obviously isn't going to trade his grandpa for Krypton's fate after just getting him back. In any case, Zod does whatever it takes to cement himself as Krypton's dictator, even if it means bending over for Brainiac. They confront Seg at the fortress where the final boss is sucked into the Phantom Zone along with Seg. Furthermore, Zod uninstalls Google Maps to complicate his eventual return. 30 moons later, General Zod assumes control of Kandor and finally says the thing.
Kneel before Zod!
Oh, and Doomsday breaks free. General Zod only has eyes for conquering the universe, but his empty-headed peanut brain has neglected Krypton's moon, which is the only place with enough fuel to power his intergalactic fleet. As such, this is where the Resistance has strategically set up shop. Lyta is just completely evil now, who is running around as the Menace's pawn. She kills Darren and apprehends Nyssa for Zod, who then blackmails her using her son. In other news, these two escape the Phantom Zone by escaping it. This is Brainiac's homeworld of Kolu, but Seg never requested a tour guide. Adam zeroes in on his location, only to discover the final boss was beaten so badly it looks like a single-player game. Then Lobo joins them to collect his bounty on the alien. In the luscious forest of British Columbia, scans indicate that Brainiac is somehow inside of Seg. He suddenly turns into Neo from the Matrix until Adam decides to third wheel. Undeniably, the main man possesses a healing factor. Seg realizes he won't be able to get past TSA with an evil roommate anyway, and the only sensible solution is to end them both. Nyssa arrives at Wegthor to alert the Resistance of an opportunity to ruin Zod's day by sabotaging his supply lines. Back on Krypton, Jaina returns to civilization and happens across a deserted Dev. It took him one whole season, but the man realizes he's not cut out for law enforcement. Seg figures out how to beat Brainiac by figuring it out. They're essentially going to perform an exorcism and then catch the 9 o'clock Zeta Beam train back to Krypton. While Brainiac preys upon his intrusive thoughts, the main man drops his arm and devises a diabolical scheme. The Temu Deadpool deletes himself to respawn from the other side, but Seg clutches it out and leaves Brainiac all for the nut job. Nissa's deception continues on Wegthor, and the main point of contention is the space elevator connecting Krypton to its moon. And because progress has stalled, the villain sends Lyta first thing in the morning. For the one person asking for their origin story, Lyta met Seg the rankless homewrecker at a flea market, and the rest is history. Jax has installed herself as the narcissistic CEO micromanaging everybody on Wegthor. She sends a team to call dibs on the space elevator, and that's when Lyta challenges her authority. Jax resorts to a bioweapon powered by the Codex, which targets the Sagittari specifically. Except, Nissa rats her out as she trickles away with said Codex, which she was after all along. Meanwhile, Seg finds out that Lyta underwent a process called somatic reconditioning. In other words, she's been brainwashed. The Menace is about to do the same to him by deleting his browsing history, but it would appear his roommate never got the memo because somehow, Brainiac returned. The Resistance attempts to talk down Lyta like a CW show, but she's having none of it. Likewise, Jax doesn't negotiate with terrorists. As the Menace tries to justify his reasons for reconditioning Lyta, Jax calls in with a demand. Withdraw his forces from Wegthor or Lyta dies. And he seemingly agrees. But when Jax discovers he's got Sagittari slithering in the tunnels, well, she's a woman of her word. Dev has been crying all season long. He blames himself for abandoning Lyta because apparently they got quite close until one day she turned into a completely different person. In any case, they rescue Seg, but it's more like Seg rescuing them. Gramps catches the early signs before Jax transforms into another Kim Jong-Zod. But she's right. They are constantly at a numbers disadvantage, and he blows up the space station to cut off Zod's supply of troops. That is, until whoever is first to realize they are an advanced civilization with access to spaceships. So really, he accomplished nothing, and I just wasted half a minute of your time. Moreover, Jax is given the John Wick Excommunicado starter pack. Nissa explains that the Codex is a dud, and now that they've got their son back, the main character can finally address the elephant in the room who's been living rent-free inside his head for half a season. Upon extracting all of Brainiac's nanites, Nissa's empty-headed peanut brain plugs them straight into the computer for analysis without considering a VPN. As you'd expect, right after renaming their son to the legendary Jor-El, Brainiac kidnaps him and vanishes. Meanwhile, the General hustles Doomsday, who then spends all episode attempting to scrub its browsing history. 1,000 years ago, my man volunteered himself as a lab rat to end a civil war on Krypton. Ultimately, he was transformed into something that offends my eye, who also happens to be invulnerable to literally everything. Likewise, his girl no longer has intrusive thoughts for him, so he turned all evil. Communications are still shoddy from the solar flare, meaning they'll have to stop Zod's fleet before he steamrolls the Resistance. Unfortunately, these two are caught almost immediately, and the other two are rescued by Lyta. Turns out that for the entire season, she's been under the influence of Black Mercy. It is a parasitic plant that traps its host inside a utopia. But when Zod began taking samples to try to make Doomsday kneel before him, her simulation began to deteriorate until the illusion shattered. By the time he sits through an unskippable YouTube ad, it is already too late to warn the Resistance. Zod was able to make Doomsday bend for him, and the demon speedruns its way across the moon. Their only hope of survival is to abandon ship and return to Krypton using the ship that sent Doomsday, according to Zack Snyder. Meanwhile, Commander Kem collapses the tunnels to trap Doomsday, hoping to buy them enough time to escape. Doing so sets off a chain reaction which ends up destroying Wegthor altogether. General Zod is so obsessed with shutting down the rebellion that he exhausts all his forces and has left himself severely understaffed. They beat the Menace into submission in what can only be described as a skill issue. At long last, it's over. The villain is put into a simulation, Doomsday takes an ice bath and falls asleep, Adam Strange gets a lore-accurate costume, and these two form a temporary alliance to hunt down the real final boss. Regarding Nissa, she wanders off into a non-existent Season 3 in search of the Zeta Beam's creator. On the shores of Ireland, Planet Ran, she comes across an ominous symbol while Thanagarians command the skies. And that about wraps it up for SYFY's Krypton. Make of this what you will, I'm just a messenger.